start by unmuting my mic. So I'm ahead of the game already. Welcome to another Tuesday night Blathercast, and welcome to the Blathering Boomers Blatherverse. I went to college, and I've done theater, and I don't know about any of you, but both of those things caused me to have major anxiety dreams, even though college was like, God, college was 50 years ago. Yikes. Yikes. And theater was, wow, theater was 30 years ago. Anyway, to this day, I have bad dreams about it's finals week. I'm in California. My school's in Albany, New York. I haven't been to class. I don't know where the finals are. Oh my God, my father's going to kill me if I flunk out, the whole thing. But by the way, my father was a wonderful, gentle soul. He never would have considered killing me. But the point of it is I have anxiety dreams about finals week. And I had this other repeating dream. I did community theater. I did Fiddler on the Roof twice, Oklahoma once, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest once, a couple of other things. And to this day, I have a dream. It's opening night. I haven't been to rehearsals. I haven't memorized my part. I don't know the blocking. And I am backstage, like 10 minutes before the opening curtain, desperately trying to find somebody who has a script and could tell me where I'm supposed to go when I go on the stage. So why do I say all that? Because the normal normality of my Tuesday Blathercast is, I'll do a bunch of preparatory work beforehand. Part of preparation, of course, on Tuesday is it's Taco Tuesday. I ate my tacos, and that happened. But today, to get ahead of myself, I spent a lot of my workday coming up with clips and photos and all kinds of stuff to present. So I took my time getting home, thinking I had plenty of time because I was so well prepared. But being the boomer that I am, well, I found out today that bookmarking things on my work PC doesn't translate to things being bookmarked on my laptop, which is where the Blatherverse exists. Because I'm just sitting here talking to a machine. It says 6 people are watching. Hello to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. So I'm not as prepared as I might normally be. I kind of threw something together at the last minute, but let's see. So disclaimer has been stated by the Blathering Boomer. And I did do a tweet today. And what I said was, after much conversation and much reflection, I've come to the following conclusions. 1, Russia interfered in the 2016 election. 2, Elizabeth Warren's going to go down in history as one of the great senators of our time. And 3, trans women have a right to all women's spaces. More, I called it a thread. And then, of course, if you scroll down just a little bit, you get that it was an April Fool's joke. And I got a few laughs on Twitter. I do love getting laughs, even when they're just laugh emojis. Today's April Fool's Day. So 58 years ago today, Lenny Schlein, a.k.a. the Viking, and I were bar mitzvahed at Sons of Israel on Benson Avenue and 21st Avenue back in the homeland, Brooklyn. At the time, I took it as an omen. Hey, I got nothing wrong against the Jewish religion. I got nothing against any religion. I got nothing against anybody's spiritual practice. But I kind of walked away from organized religion pretty much the day after I graduated from Hebrew school. I believe we should all find our own spiritual paths, and that the sun hits every blade of grass on the planet at a different angle. So how could we all be expected to all have a congruent and exact spiritual path? We're all individual people. Anyway, that's not even where I want to go. The last thing I said on that April Fool's thing was trans women in women's spaces, and that's an issue. The whole sports thing is one thing, but the whole sports thing leads to scenes like this. So yeah, it really is unfair. I mean, the fact of the matter is, men's bodies are built different than women's bodies, and if you're born a male, I know there's a whole thing about puberty blockers and if they don't go through male puberty, but that involves giving puberty blockers to children, and I have a big problem with that. So I'm going to say, you know, women fought for a very, very, very long time to get their own sports. And where are the people who who demonstrated for that, who demanded that? All of a sudden it's okay. I I have a big issue with it. I really, really do. And I spent a year in the Slam. I would have loved to have spent a year in the women's house of detention instead of where I ended up. I mean, believe me, I didn't, there was no such thing back in 1976 of gender of identification. But yeah, so men shouldn't be in women's prisons. Men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. Now, that being said, I understand a trans person needs to go to the bathroom somewhere. There should be gender neutral bathrooms available wherever there's a men's room and wherever there's a women's room. But women have a right to their own space, as do men, actually. And trans people have a right to go to the bathroom. Trans people have a right to exist peacefully and to live their lives, live and be well. I got no problem with how you identify and how you want to manifest that identification. But once you start crossing the line, once you start parading around women's locker rooms when you haven't had bottom surgery, and you're on the swim team, and once you start basically taking women's spots away in different athletic competitions, and you saw what just happened in a track event where you had a trans person beating the closest woman by like, it was like 12 seconds. It was a pretty long time. So that I do have an issue with that. I really do. A sad aspect of criticizing men in women's spaces is that it causes accusations of transphobia, because that's what happens. You criticize this and you're called transphobic. I dare say I am not transphobic. I dare say you could be an ally of the trans community and still be against biological men in women's sports. The concepts are not mutually exclusive. Same goes for criticizing jihadists. Criticizing jihadists leads to accusations of Islamophobia. Nothing could be further from the truth. I dare say you can have great respect for Muslims and their beliefs and still be anti-jihad. The concepts are not mutually exclusive. And the same thing goes for criticizing people like Jamal Bowman and Al Green. Not Al Green the singer. Al Green the singer, he hit some high notes that I won't even attempt. I'm talking about Al Green, the cane-waving congressman who got escorted out of the Capitol during Trump's speech. You criticize Jamal Bowman and Al Green, you start getting called a racist. I don't even want to have to say I'm not a racist. I'm not. Wow. Boy, if I was a racist, I would have had a pretty hard time being locked up in a place that was 70% black, not back in 1976. So you got the Democrats singing "We Shall Overcome" in the halls of Congress to support Al Green. And I think that was a disgrace to the memory of abolitionists and legitimate 60s civil rights activists. Al Green wasn't removed and censured because of the color of his skin. He was removed for disrupting a speech. Jamal Bowman was unelected from Congress, not because of the color of his skin, because he pulled a fire alarm in the Capitol building, which is actually a crime. Actually a crime. So you could be 100% supportive of interracial brotherhood and still be critical of bad behavior by certain people of color. The concepts are not mutually exclusive. And finally, you can want clean air, you can want clean water, and you could still be critical of morons like the one I'm about to show you. And this has caused actually a momentous day in the Blatherverse because well, I'll get to that in a moment. Let me share the screen here and get this video going, and check this out.
We are Last Generation Canada, a non-violent civil resistance campaign tackling the climate crisis and demanding a climate disaster protection agency. Our government is failing to protect ordinary people. Our government would rather protect the interests of billionaires and large companies like Tesla rather than ordinary people. Our government is breaking the social contract. Recently, the Trump administration has criticized actions like these. But all it shows is that repression means nothing. It means that they're afraid. It means that civil resistance works. The time for civil resistance is now. Pink paint is nothing compared to the far-right tyranny we're seeing and the climate disasters. Which is why I'm urging you to come and take action with us this spring as we disrupt business as usual, because business as usual is killing us.
I've been getting letters, emails, cards, telegrams from at least 5 out of the 6 continents, maybe even all 6, saying to effectively, hey, Blathering Boomer, what happened to the Dipshit of the Day award? Where is it? We looked forward to it. We were looking forward to the Dipshit of the Year tournament for 2024. And I apologize. I gave it to Gavin Gruesome because of the fires. I mean, it was an executive decision. But that video that I just showed of this person, a so-called environmentalist, spray painting a Tesla dealer, do I have to even point out that Teslas are electric vehicles and that it wasn't too many years ago that people who were all about the environment were out there buying Teslas when they could afford it? And Elon Musk was championed as a hero of the environment. So I don't get it. I don't get the logic of it. I'll give the person credit for balls. I mean, he or she went right up in front of the camera and stated his or her case. And I just wonder it is Canada, a country that elected Justin Trudeau. So I'm not sure that anything will happen. Boy, I would have loved to see that happen in Texas. I got to tell you, it's just wrong. This destruction of property, this constant destruction of property is wrong. People who bought Teslas, in a lot of cases, I dare say perhaps the majority of cases, wanted an electric vehicle because they had come to the conclusion that internal combustion engines, gas-powered vehicles, in other words, were bad for the environment. And yet, not only that, which leads to the fact, the theory, that many, I dare say the majority of Tesla owners are kind of left-leaning. I dare say they're probably Democrats. And yet, these insane extremists are attacking Tesla dealers, Tesla charging stations. This is not how you win people over. This is not how you win people over. Gluing yourself to a highway and blocking traffic is not how you win people over. It's the opposite. Have you children learned nothing from the boomers? We got civil rights done. We got the 18-year-old vote passed. We got, we finally got an end to the Vietnam War. But say what you will about all those things. We weren't doing these insane things. What are they even thinking? I don't get it. It's mishugas. It's total mishugas. It's foolishness. It's idiocy. I don't understand how they think they're going to make their point. I really don't. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, I was grossly unprepared for doing this podcast tonight, but I do have a few things I do want to share. Okay, so everybody's up in arms about Signalgate. They're making a big scandal out of it, again, people are so serious about just hating Trump, hating everything he does. And don't get me wrong, I've got my share of disappointments right now. I would have thought that by now an agreement would have been made that there'd at least be a ceasefire in Ukraine. There isn't one. So his prediction of getting it done on day 1, well, maybe he meant day 91 or something else ending in 1. That hasn't happened. We did get the Kennedy files, but so far they seem to be a nothing burger, nothing profound. I'm not seeing anything about the murder of RFK or the murder of Martin Luther King. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but I'm not seeing any of that. But with Trump, they're in their desperation. There was a whole thing about a real law enforcement person starts with a crime and then finds the person. But what we experienced in the year running up to the latest presidential election was find the person and then decide on the person and then find the crime. And we had lawfare, and hey, it didn't do any good. Trump got elected, and all these people who were trying to Trump could walk on water, and they would say that it's only because he paid off the ocean. It's there has to be, and again, there's fair criticism to be made about Trump, but the derangement syndrome is so widespread, and you can't even talk to people. The second the word Trump comes into the conversation, the knives come out. It's horrible. As Americans, we should be rooting for the man piloting the plane. He's not always right. He's often wrong, but he's got the fate of this country in his hands for the next 3 years and 10 months. We should be rooting for him. It's not going to do any good for anybody if this administration fails. So that's my 2 cents about that. Anyway, so yeah, they created a scandal. It's called Signalgate. So what happened was there was I'm sure a lot of you know all about it. There was a group of people. The Signal's a secure encrypted communications method. I'm sure that a lot of drug dealers and bookmakers use it to have secret conversations with their clients. But apparently it's so secure. Excuse me. Gotta drink more water. Everybody drink more water. That includes the blathering boomer. So the government apparently thinks that that Signal is very secure, so they use it for some top level meetings. Well, apparently somebody who shouldn't have been in one of these meetings was invited, and they're making a big scandal out of this. So I had heard that this person, Jeffrey Goldberg, who is, I think he's the chief editor at The Atlantic. In any case, The Atlantic is an extremely anti-Trump publication. Jeffrey Goldberg is an extremely anti-Trump journalist. And so right away, we have partisan issues with the whole thing. But I want to get as neutral opinion as I could on the topic, because what I heard, and I have to separate what I heard from what I know. So this is what I heard. What I heard was there was a big delay that Jeffrey Goldberg saw that he was in the chat, saw what people were saying about the bombing of Yemen. However, he didn't report it right away. He waited about a week. Now it raises the question, if that's true, which it seems to be, and I'm going to show a little bit of evidence for that. If he was so outraged that there was a national security breach because he was in a Signal chat group with the top intelligence officers of this country talking about a military operation, any normal person, is there such a thing as a normal person? If he was that outraged that national security was being breached, you immediately report it. You say, hey, if I'm in this conversation, what if somebody from Al-Qaeda is in this conversation? What if the Houthis are hearing this? But he didn't do that. So because I try to separate the opinion from fact as best I can, it's not always easy to do that. I took a deep dive. Well, I didn't take the deep dive. I asked the question of AI in the deepest setting I could find. And the answer I got was very, very lengthy, but I will read some of it to you as soon as I could find it. Here we go. So the question is, Did Goldberg eavesdrop? The question of whether Goldberg eavesdropped hinges on the definition of eavesdropping, which typically means listening secret to what is said in private. Given that he was added to the chat by mistake, and the officials likely did not know he was there, his act of reading the messages fits this definition. He did not take any action to gain access. Rather, the access was granted inadvertently by Waltz, our national security, whatever. However, from the perspective of the officials, his presence was unknown, making it akin to eavesdropping in effect. Goldberg read the conversation prior to reporting on it, as evidenced by his monitoring of the chat on March 15th and his subsequent articles published on March 24th, March 26th, detailing the chat's contents. So let's go down to the timeline. So there we go. March 11th, he received the signal connection from Michael Waltz. March 13th, he's added to the Hootie PC small group chat. March 15th, he confirms the chat authenticity during the Yemen strike discussions. And then on March 15th, in fairness, he removed himself from the chat after realizing it's real. However, it wasn't until March 24th he published an article on the chat in The Atlantic. So is this journalism? I mean, what even is that? I don't consider that to be journalism. I consider that to be something pretty far from it. If he was that outraged, why did he wait 9 days? Why did he wait 9 days, knowing what they were talking about? No. So people are saying, "Oh no, he didn't do this for self-aggrandization." Whatever the word is, the self-aggrandizement. Of course he did. Of course he did. The first time he reports on this is in an article in The Atlantic. Come on, find a better scandal. Find a better scandal. Have a scandal that Trump ran on bringing peace to Ukraine on day one. It's now day 60-something, and he hasn't brought peace to Ukraine. He's tried, and he's making inroads, but he hasn't done it. Criticize him on that. Criticize him on the fact that there are still hostages in Gaza. One of them being an American. The hell to pay right now is just a bill. I don't see the payment of hell. So there's plenty to criticize him on, and of course there's all kinds of other policies, et cetera, et cetera. But Signalgate, is that you're going to hang your hat on Signalgate? Don't for your own sake. I actually care about the credibility, even of the ones who disagree with me. Oh, and speaking of people who disagree with me, I want to actually welcome someone to the Blatherverse. I got a new subscriber yesterday. She's an Austrian woman, good friend of mine, and we disagree on just about everything, but we're able to maintain a civil conversation. So I want to personally give her a shout out, although I'm going to not say her by name. But she knows who I am, and I hope she's one of the 7 people watching right now, or one of the dozens who'll watch this later. So shout out to you. And I've kind of meant to share some of these things because a lot of these podcasts, sure, I get a little bit savage sometimes. I really do. I get a little savage sometimes. I'm not real happy about the woke in some cases, and I'm not afraid to express my opinion. And boy, I'm pretty isolated in my old worlds as a result of my political opinions. But what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and just go with the flow and become a bleeding sheep like so many other people? No. My big hope is that people start waking up to the fact that I had a conversation just today about Trump, and somebody was just going on and on and on about how bad Trump is, and I listened, and I just quietly said, look, we had no choice. And I maintain we had no choice. His opposition, his only credible opposition, if you don't count Cornel West and Jill Stein, his only credible opposition was from a party who has had their elite choose the nominee for the last 3 consecutive presidential nominations. And this particular nominee was soundly and roundly rejected by the voters in the short period of time when the 2020 primary was actually real. You know, started out as a front runner, ended up with 0 delegates, didn't make it to Iowa. The people had spoken; they didn't want her. She became the vice president only because the person who was to occupy the White House for the next 4 years said that he's going to have a woman of color be the vice president. And unfortunately, he chose the wrong one because he could have chose the right one. But that's another story that I'm not going to get into right now. So one of the things that's given me hope in Gaza, one of the things I've been I don't pray, but one of the things I've been hoping pretty loudly for is that one day the people of Gaza would rise up against Hamas. Uh, if I lose half my audience by saying this, I don't care. I can pinpoint exactly who's responsible for every death in Gaza, and every death in Gaza, in the blathering boomers' not so humble opinion, every single death in Gaza is on Hamas. Every single one. Human shields, attacking October 7th. This was all orchestrated. This is the result they wanted, you know. But maybe they're getting a little more than they probably didn't anticipate Donald Trump being elected, because this could be a game changer. But lately there've been very, very loud protests in the streets of Gaza of people who don't want Hamas anymore. They're waving white flags. Some of them are waving Israeli flags. I'm not sure where they got Israeli flags. Maybe they, who knows? But in any case, it's been happening. So what does Hamas do? They kidnap and murder brutally one of the leaders. I'm not even sure he was a leader. After they tortured him and mutilated his body, they dropped him off a rooftop with a note pinned to his clothes. This is the price for all who criticize Hamas. So my message to all you virtue signaling idiots on campuses who think that occupying a building is a blow for to save decent humanity. You're useful idiots, every single one of you, and especially, I'm especially scornful of these so-called generals. I'm going to mention him by name this time. Pasta, go to hell. Seriously, with all your Hamas rhetoric that you wanted to broadcast from my living room. Never going to happen. Max Blumenthal, join him. Aaron Mate and your fake Holocaust survivor father. You're born in Hungary in 1944, and you go around with a moniker Holocaust survivor when you were 1 year old and never even probably heard the word Nazi. Misty, all of you, every one of you, you are all guilty of journalistic malpractice. You are all partly to blame for all the insanity going on campuses right now. I do not abide a single bit of it. I am all for peaceful protests, but when that crosses over into supporting Hamas, the dude, or the blathering boomer, does not abide, to say the least. Okay, let me get on to a much more serious topic. I do want, and I'm kind of sorry for saving this for last. I've been taking a deeper dive into what's been happening in Bangladesh, and it really saddens me that that people aren't aware of it. I was unaware of it. So a very, very, very quick synopsis. 1971, you had the cyclone, you had the famine, and you had a revolution. East Pakistan and West Pakistan were separated by 1,100 miles of India. The people of what was called East Pakistan are a Bengali nation. They wanted independence. They wanted to be a secular state. They did not want to fall under Sharia law. They fought a revolution. 3 million of them were slaughtered in an attempted genocide. I bet you didn't know about that. I didn't. So they gave their blood, they gave their lives, and they won their independence in 1971. 4 years later, their leader was assassinated. Not only was he assassinated, they killed his entire family except for 2 of his daughters. One of his daughters was elected to be prime minister, I believe, in 1996. She's won a couple of elections, lost a couple of elections, but I think for 20 of the 29 years from 28 years from 1996 to 2024, she was the leader. duly and rightly elected. In 2024, there was an uprising, a conspiracy, as the Bengalis say, and Sheikh Hasina fled. Well, I'm not going to say fled. She left and went to India. My understanding is she felt that her presence was causing people to die, and she thought that by leaving, fewer people would die. Noble gesture. She gave up power. A man named Yunus, who's actually a Nobel laureate. I don't know how he got the Nobel Prize. He took power. And ever since then, Hindus are being slaughtered and persecuted. They're being raped. Their businesses are being burned. Their temples are being destroyed. It's an absolute nightmare. And it's just so sad. So Joey Meatballs and I did a little segment about it in December because a Hindu friend of mine called me in tears one night talking about this. It was the first I heard about it. So I did a very, very shallow dive into it in December. And then after that, somebody reached out to me on Twitter and asked me to do a deeper dive. And I posted on Twitter that if anybody would like to talk about the situation in Bangladesh, please contact me. We'll have a conversation. And this amazing individual contacted me, said he was game, and we did a interview, an hour and a half, about 3 weeks ago on a Sunday morning, which I published. There's a link to that conversation in the description. That's called the first Bangladesh conversation. We had a second conversation 2 days ago, and I released that video at 7 a.m. California time, which is 6 p.m. Dhaka time, because the person I was speaking to thought that there'd be a big interest in Dhaka, and apparently there was. I got a lot of kind comments. I'd like to play a little excerpt from that, if I may. But before that, let me just make sure I have nothing else to share that I was planning to. Oh yeah, I do want to share this. This is a video we've seen many times.
Included the bombing at Kabul airport's Abbey Gate, which killed 13 U.S. service members. This report, which was long anticipated, repeatedly blamed the Trump.
So, we've all seen that footage of the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan, and Trump gets on the campaign trail. Not just the campaign trail; he's saying it now. And here comes my terrible Trump impersonation. When he said, basically, he was trying to make the point that we were viewed as weak on the world stage because of the botched Biden Afghanistan withdrawal. And I can't say I particularly disagree. And in the years that followed, Putin invaded Ukraine and Hamas invaded Israel. And there was a conspiracy in Bangladesh, and the rightfully elected leader of the country was forced to leave. So a lot of things happened under Biden. And Trump's very fond of saying, if I was the president, Putin never would have done it. Putin would have done it. He wouldn't have done it. He wouldn't have done it. And if I was the president, October 7th never would have happened. Iran wouldn't have done it. I had Iran under my thumb. Iran wouldn't have dared do it. No. You've heard that speech, probably. But I wondered, if Trump was elected in 2020, if Trump was president in 2024, not running for president in 2024, would all this trouble in Bangladesh have happened? So I asked the person that I was talking to, and this is a very small piece of a much, much longer discussion, but I'd like to share it with you. And here we go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, I mean, if Mr. Trump was in office in 2024, a lot of the things that is happening in the world right now would not have happened.
So does it follow possibly? I know that last time we spoke, you said there's no possible good outcome to this, that they're on a path to becoming Afghanistan. But is there a universe, somewhere in the universe, where Mr. Trump can make a deal with China, get them on board with the other four of the big five, have fair elections in Bangladesh, and then have some kind of, I know we said the UN is useless, but there's such a thing as a peacekeeping force, because I do believe that if Hasina is reelected, there'll be trouble. But if we have peacekeepers there, even whether it's American or UN, I mean, to me that seems to be the only hope right now. Trump's only going to be president for 4 years, and I mean, really, my heart aches for what's happening there. I am such a big fan of first of all, secularism. This was a secular revolution that succeeded. That doesn't happen very much. So, freedom of religion, or freedom to not even be of a religion, is very, very important to me. So freedom of religion is very, very important, and that's what you won in 1971. I would think that all the free-thinking, idealistic people of the world should be supporting Bangladesh, which is the main reason I'm doing this and speaking to you, because again, recognition is the first step to resolution, and this is my attempt at recognition from my little corner of the world. And by the way, I'm very grateful. After we spoke the first time, I got a lot of followers, Bangladesh supporters on Twitter, and a lot of very, very kind words about our conversation. So just so you know, people
they're
really
desperate. They're desperate. They need anyone. They are, like anyone who would even listen, who would even speak a word for us.
It's sad. It shouldn't be that way. I am grateful that you are taking the time to speak to me, and my big hope, because you have so much
It's my honor.
information. You're the last conversation we had was such an education. My hope right now is that somebody with a bigger podcast than mine sees this and reaches out to talk to you, and you get to a wider audience, because I think people really, really need to hear what you have to say. I am certainly a far more educated person for that, and I thank you for that, and I thank you on behalf of my Blatherverse, which only has a few dozen people. But hey, again, if somebody's outraged by this and they spread the word, this is how things can begin. Like ripples in the pond. So that's what we're doing. We've been talking for almost an hour and a half now, so maybe we want to close it down for the moment. I would like to speak to you again as a second choice. My first choice is that Piers Morgan speaks to you, or Joe Rogan, or Lex Friedman, or somebody like that, because you have a message that needs to go to a wider audience. And if I end up with a wider audience because of this, that is only a side effect. My main thing is I want to get the word out on this, and you've been a treasure in facilitating that.
Thank you very much. It had been my honor. And thank you for giving us the platform. Thank you for giving our pain a voice. We appreciate that.
Those two conversations I had with him, that man really is a treasure. There's 12 people watching right now. God, if even one or two of you take a deeper dive into Bangladesh, take a look at their history. These are beautiful people. As he says at the very beginning of the podcast, by the way, if you're dressed right now, it's very likely that one of the articles of clothing you're wearing is from Bangladesh. He says at the very beginning of the podcast. I have links to both conversations. The one that I just showed was from our second conversation from just 2 days ago. The other one was from a few weeks ago. There are links to both conversations in the description of this video. Okay. Oh, and by the way, there will be no live stream next Tuesday. I am seriously contemplating going back to my original Blather time of Thursday evenings. So if there is a Blathercast next week, it'll take place Thursday evening and not Tuesday evening. So thank you for all 12 of you who are watching to the very end. I'm glad you guys got to see Saifullah. He's like I said, he's a treasure. I have learned so much from him, and I really am truly honored, desperation or not, that somehow the story has found me. And I just want people to, again, the Blathering Boomer quotes himself, and one of the Blathering Boomer's expressions is, recognition is the first step to resolution. So recognize what's happening. And then let's all figure out how to resolve this. This is not necessary. It's not necessary. Bangladesh for Bengalis, period. Okay? And with that, the boomer has blathered.